Joseph Bennion is a native of Utah. For the past 35 years, he has lived and worked in Spring City with his wife, Lee. Joe attended Tuscarora Pottery School and Brigham Young University, where he earned an MFA in ceramics. He has lectured and taught workshops in Japan, Europe, Canada, Jamaica, and throughout the United States. His work, which is widely published, appears in numerous private and public collections in the U.S. and abroad. He currently operates Horseshoe Mountain Pottery and works seasonally as a Grand Canyon river guide. Lee Benion moved from California to Utah in 1974 to study art at Brigham Young University. There she met and married Joe Bennion. They have raised 3 daughters. Lee has been energetically involved in both church and community activities, along with developing her painting career. Lee earned a BFA in painting at BYU. She has received numerous honors and awards, most notably the Utah Arts Council Fellowship in 1988. Lee enjoys gardening, animal husbandry, hiking, riding her horses, as well as backpacking and river running the desert canyons found in southern Utah and Arizona. Let's give a warm welcome to Joe and Lee Benion.
Okay. Thank you for inviting us up to speak. I was kind of surprised because when I think of the school, what is this class?
Entrepreneurship Center.
At our entrepreneurship seminars. I chose the title Accidental Entrepreneurs because we didn't say, okay, let's be entrepreneurs, okay, let's go into business. We had different objectives when we formed our partnership in 1976. Our objectives were to, well, first and foremost, make a nest and fill it with little babies and find a place to live that was like the place we would like to have grown up. Lee and I both watched the places where we grew up turn into strip malls, more or less. I grew up in Orange, she grew up in Merced, California, which is now a UC campus town in California, University of California campus, and it's really changed a lot. Both places have changed a lot. We went looking for the place that was like what we had grown up in, primarily agrarian, peaceful, and then we thought, well, we better find out a way to make a living. I had been studying to be an elementary school teacher, and Lee advised me that as she watched me on campus taking education classes and then making pottery on the weekends, that I probably should invest my time in where my heart was, so that I would come out of the classroom looking more like the guy she fell in love with and less like the very grumpy school teacher wannabe that I was becoming. I'd like to start out by reading you a couple of things to set the stage for what we want to say. I tend to do more talking, and Lee said that's fine, but I told her she had to get up here to look nice next to me and to chime in when I start getting off base. Anyway, I've been mulling over in my mind, what does it mean to be successful in business? And of course everyone wants to make a lot of money. But is that the most important thing we can do? Let me read a couple of things here. Early in my educational career at Brigham Young, there was a speaker came to campus named Wendell Berry from rural Kentucky. And the only thing I knew about him was this poem, which I had come across from a potter friend. And I want to read it to you. It brings up some things that I think are important in life and probably should be important in business. It's a poem called Manifesto, the Mad Farmer Liberation Front. Love the quick profit, the annual raise, vacation with pay, want more of everything ready-made. Be afraid to know your neighbors and to die. And you will have a window in your head. Not even your future will be a mystery anymore. Your mind will be punched in a card and shut away in a little drawer. When they want you to buy something, they will call you. When they want you to die for profit, they will let you know. So friends, every day, do something that won't compute. Love the Lord. Love the world. Work for nothing. Take all you have and be poor, love someone who does not deserve it. Denounce the government and embrace the flag. Hope to live in that free republic for which it stands. Give your approval to all you cannot understand. Praise ignorance, for what man has not encountered, he has not destroyed. Ask the questions that have no answers. Invest in millennium. Plant sequoias. Say that your main crop is the forest that you did not plant, that you will not live to harvest. Say that the leaves are harvested when they have rotted into the mold. Call that profit. Prophesy such returns. Put your faith in the 2 inches of humus that will build under the trees every 1,000 years. Listen to carrion. Put your ear close and hear the faint chattering of the songs that are to come. Expect the end of the world. Laugh. Laughter is immeasurable. Be joyful though you have considered all the facts. So long as women do not go cheap for power, please women more than men. Ask yourself, will this satisfy a woman satisfied to bear a child? Will this disturb the sleep of a woman near to giving birth? Go with your love to the fields. Lie easy in the shade, rest your head in her lap. Swear allegiance to what is nighest your thoughts. As soon as the generals and politicos can predict the motions of your mind, lose it. Leave it as a sign to mark the false trail, the way you didn't go. Be like the fox who makes more tracks than necessary, some in the wrong direction. Practice resurrection. Now, we're all coming in, well, okay, it's Halloween, but we're coming into the season of Christmas, and we're all going to watch, either on the stage or on the tube, some version of Dickens' Christmas Carol, I think, unless you spend too much time at the Nightmare Before Christmas or something. But Scrooge is up in the night, and he's being visited by a specter who is the ghost of his business partner, Jacob Marley. He's in chains. Scrooge says to Marley, "But you're always such a good businessman, Jacob." Marley, "Business. Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business." I guess what I'm talking about is bringing humanity, compassion, and a concern for all to our business. Joseph Campbell, I don't know if any of you remember that. He's passed on now. He taught at Sarah Lawrence University, and during the 80s, when I was in graduate school, there was a PBS program called The Power of Myth. It was a group of interviews between Joseph Campbell and Bill Moyer, who's still around, interviewing people. And Campbell talked there about this concept of, it became a mantra for my generation, called follow your bliss. And it's something I would like to really emphasize in this lecture. Campbell said, "My general formula for my students is follow your bliss. Find where it is and don't be afraid to follow it." So Campbell had spent his career studying the mythologies of all cultures, the religious teachings, etc., and had boiled it down to this one thing: follow your bliss. "I even have a superstition that has grown on me as a result of invisible hands coming all the time. Namely, that if you follow your bliss and put yourself on a kind of a track that has always been there, waiting for you, and the life that you ought to be living is the one that you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in your field of bliss, and they open doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. The doors will open, and they're where you didn't know they were going to be." Follow your bliss essentially boils down to this: identify what it is you love, what it is you came into this world to do, and then, for heaven's sakes, throw yourself into it. Let yourself fall into it. Trust the muse that is leading you. And you will find that things just open up and roll forth and happen for you. One last little quote from good old Edward Abbey. He said, "Growth, for the sake of growth, is the ideology of the cancer cell." As I mentioned earlier, we formed this partnership in 1976, and we look at what's here and what's on the screen. That was a while ago. When I look at the age of our children, I realize that it really was a while ago. We went looking for this place to nest, this Shangri-La, and within the week of our marriage, we drove into Spring City. We looked around, and it was like, We had a list of criteria which we threw out the window because the feeling was so strong that this was the right place to be. And this was before I had decided that I was going to pursue a degree in art. I was still, I was 3 years into an elementary education program at Bennion University. We bought a small place for very little money in those days and set about living that life, maybe that ideal of the 60s where you move out to the country and grow some peaches and find Jesus on your own and everything works out. And we were very naive and very young, and yet things rolled forward. This is where we live now. This is our backyard. We have a stream that runs through the yard. I took this picture last week when the stream came back on. It goes off during the summers because it's irrigation water and it's being used in the fields. And once they turn that off, we get the water coming at us. I was raised in a home where gardening was just essential. My parents raised 12 children on a Utah school teacher's salary. Do the math. I always thought we grew vegetables because it was a necessity economically. As I thought back on my parents, I realized no, it was more a spiritual pursuit. It was a way of identifying, defining our family. I don't know if you can see that very well in this slide, but that's me with somebody who's on the front row, out in the garden hoeing. Another thing that's been important in our lives, and what I'm giving you now is just a lot of background. For us as artists and our work, the things that are important, the things that feed the work. There's the mountains around us, and getting up into the mountains and spending time, and getting to know this place, and getting out into the deserts, the San Rafael east of here, and the Escalante Desert south of here. We took the kids backpacking as soon as they were old enough to put on a pack. I think in this particular trip, those two little girls were 4 and 6 years old, and about all they had in those packs were their panties and socks. But we had them out there. It was important to have them out there, to do this together. And I would emphasize this as one of the things that I think is important for having a whole life, which I think a whole life feeds into a successful business, is to spend significant time with those you love. Don't get to the end of your life and realize, oh my gosh, I couldn't have a life with these important people. So what if I made it to the top and built this huge empire if I didn't bring them with me? Then we figured out that there was a way to get into the wilderness that was not as hard on the knees, which is getting in a boat. And we started running rivers together as the girls got into their teenage years. They learned to row in the Grand Canyon during high school. And later that became actually a significant part of what has contributed to our family's success economically. And I will say this, Lee and I have 4 gigs that we work at. I work as a guide in the Grand Canyon. I organize trips. And it's sometimes as much as a third of our income, especially when I organize trips. And we run it as part of our business. Lee is a painter, very successful and a very well-known one. I make pottery and sell it on the street in Spring City. And for the most part, Lee runs the salve business. She makes a salve called Momâ stuff, which I'll show you some images of later. And we just kind of do these things all together. I guess you could call it diversification. Is that a business term? Yeah. The corporation is Horseshoe Mountain Pottery, and these are the 4 branches that the business has. And I will just say that there's not much more fun than being with the ones you love on earth. Now, you've heard of the rat race. Businessmen, whether you're working for a wage or working for your own business, don't get caught in this rat race. Have your happiness now. Live in the present. If you're not having if you're always deferring your happiness till, this is accomplished or this is acquired, you'll never have it. Happiness is here and now. Happiness is where you sit. Learn to love what you have and to rejoice in that thing that you have. Lee and I watched a film a few years ago with Meryl Streep in it, who I think is just a great actress, but aside from that, I would watch her pick her nose. In which she plays a woman who is dying of cancer, and she's giving her best piece of advice to her daughter, who has come back from New York City to sit with her while she dies. And she says to her, love what you have. And that really sunk in as I watched that film. Lee, I want you to talk about your bliss. Next slides with your, what you do.
I don't think I need to talk about it, you can just see.
She was born inside. This is a self-portrait, photographic self-portrait of herself on a horse.
That's my new studio, and it's a hay barn, horse barn, and printmaking studio and painting studio all combined in one.
Lee and I also have a passion for old buildings. That's why we live in Spring City. We've been very active in the historic preservation community there. And when we wanted to build a new studio for Lee, we bought an old barn, moved it onto the place, rehabbed it, and put her in it. And I think it's significant that the horses and the paint are all there together. These are the things that drive her, feed her, and the most productive thing that she does.
That's my studio.
This is the Lee part of the studio. Here's some of what Lee produces out of her studio. She really doesn't want to talk. When I met her, I was actually fancied myself an artist, took a lot of painting and drawing in high school. I just set it aside when I met her because I was so bowled over, not just by her facility, but by the emotional impact of the work. I just thought, I'm going to go somewhere else to establish myself. I'm not going to draw and paint alongside this. It's too intimidating. And Lee does have a wonderful facility with paint and with drawing materials, but more importantly, she can open up her heart and just put it out there in a very real and very readable fashion. This is probably the most recent painting she's done. It's going into a show she's having in Salt Lake in November. Okay, this is Daddy's clubhouse. After making pottery in the chicken coop in Spring City for the first few years of our partnership, I realized I needed a Main Street location. Early on, I took my pottery out to street fairs, I took it to galleries, I got it in consignment shops. I really strung myself out doing that. And I woke up one morning to the fact that I had kind of fallen out of love with making pottery. It had become such a job, and I realized I needed to either get out of it or approach it from another direction. I went back to school and really reinvented myself as a potter. This is my big kiln in Spring City that I fire in. By the way, I was booked for arson when I was 11 years old. Taken to the police station, I fingerprinted, mugshot, the whole thing. My mother was just beside herself. I had burned a cherry orchard down. I didn't cut down one tree. I burnt the whole thing to the ground and was hauled in. Luckily, it was slated for demolition to become a subdivision norm. But it got away. My passion and my fun got away from me. And my mother wanted to know, why are you documenting my son like this? Why do you need his fingerprints? And I said, so when he's 45 years old and doing schools and warehouses, we can find him. I found this. And by the way, this is really, really cool. To have a flame, the kiln is 24 feet long, 22 feet long, and the stack, the chimney is 24 feet long. So you've got this almost 50-foot flame, and you've got 6 to 8 feet of flame up the top. Doesn't that excite any of you? To just be involved with that, putting wood into it and feeling it wanting to pull your shoelaces into the kiln. It's so much draw. Anyway, I better move on. And this is what it does. It makes the pots really beautiful. Pots that are not fired in a wood-burning kiln won't look like this. They'll look good, but they have it's just a different fingerprint. And these are a few of the things I've produced recently. I've got a finger here, don't I? Okay, can I do this and talk into the mic? All of this right here is where the wood ash has been hitting the pot and impacting it. I just think that's too exciting. I'm really consumed with the surfaces. I think the most beautiful thing is a pot when it first comes off the wheel and it's just got that thing. And wood-fired stuff is the closest to that. Here's a picture of the display we used to have at the craft fairs around this. Of course, as you see, was downtown Salt Lake, unless you don't recognize that peculiar architecture. I sold in some really high-end galleries all over the country, New York, Santa Fe, LA, San Francisco, you name it. I got my work in a lot of really big deal museum collections. I traveled all over the world lecturing. I've given lectures in Europe, Caribbean, Japan, Asia, all over the U.S. And really kind of by the early 90s, that was kind of what I was doing. I was selling through galleries and lecturing all over the place and not making enough money to make ends meet. And I came to kind of a crisis of, where am I going with this? What are we doing? All the time, Lee's selling in galleries, which is paintings belong in galleries. And it occurred to me that I'm taking something that belongs on the table in people's hands and trying to run it like as if it was high art. And I don't want to diminish the importance of ceramics, but it's craft, it's pottery, it's for the body. And I count it as one of the great accomplishments of my career that I can sell everything I make out of this little shop in Spring City. And I do it by meeting the people. And this is very satisfying to know the people that are buying my work and to feel that connection, that warmth, and to know that as they're using my pots around their table, they think, yeah, these are Joe the Potter's pots. We got these pots from Joe down in Spring City. And there's that connection I have with my public. How we brought this about was we started producing a newsletter about, 1992, whenever that was. My beautiful assistant has a newsletter right here. And this last year we finally got it online. That's why you see these pictures in color. This is the online version. But I still believe in print, I believe in paper, I believe in the tactile experience of sitting wherever it is, in the john, on the bus, on your back, patio with a cup of coffee, just mulling this over and reading it and then passing it on to a friend. Lee, on the other hand, this is the Overland Gallery in Scottsdale that she used to sell through. She's also sold, and they did some wonderful things for her. They got her in Southwest Art. They got her advertised in a lot of different magazines. She has settled on David Erickson Fine Art as her one off-campus sales venue. And I will say this about being successful as an artist in business or in any business. Make sure that your work is the best that you can produce. Be part of the top 10 to 5% of your field. You can do that. Just make work that's really true to who you are. Don't make work that's about something over here. I don't know. Maybe I'm preaching false doctrine in this temple, but I think you need to look at what do I think the world really needs rather than what do I think the market really needs. And then you find a way to get that to the world. I think that's important. The other thing is if you're good and if you're around, people start to notice you. This is an online magazine, 15 Bytes, that has featured our work a couple of times. This is a magazine published in Ireland. I probably got my work in half a dozen international journals over the years. If the work's good and if it's significant and relevant, it will get published, it will get out there. It's almost like, I remember a few years ago, a fellow came down from the state to teach us about bringing traffic to our towns for commerce, and he said, if you provide an authentic experience, an authentic product, an authentic destination, they will come, they'll beat a path to your door, and they'll write about you. And that's what has happened. We got on Doug Fabrizio's radio show a couple of years ago. A wonderful experience. He also featured us on his television program. Here we were taking the TV show out in my backyard by the kiln. It was really fun, and a lot of people got to know us. They invited us up to eat dinner with the Gov and gave us a big award. These things all happen by staying in the same place and being good at what you do. And having a product that's peculiar, it's different, it's unique to us. Facebook, it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to waste a whole lot of time, or it's a great way to get your business out there. You do with it as you will. I've done both. This is my web page. I keep a blog there, and I blog about not only what I'm doing day to day, but what's going on in our little town, Bluegrass Festival that we have. I have become somewhat of a one-man Chamber of Commerce / booster for Spring City, bringing people there, which has its ups and downs. There's good things about that, and there's crummy things about that. Lee's webpage. Lee's journal, her blog, if you will, where she blogs about her paintings and her salve that she makes. We signed up for Constant Contact, which I think is an incredible vehicle for meeting and getting your word out to people. One thing I learned early on is to keep a mailing list of everyone you meet. Just keep track of that, and then communicate with those people. Of course, we would send our newsletter out and send these little postcards. Constant Contact is just fantastic. And there's other ones, I forget what they're named, that's not the only, but it allows you to send thousands of newsletters at once out, notices email-wise, and they're very particular about that you don't spam, that every person on your list is someone that knows they're getting mail from you and that wanted it. And that's a good thing. It's called integrity, it's called courtesy, to not just get a bunch of names and blast that out there, but you're actually communicating with people you have a connection and a relationship to. I think that's very important. We have gotten ourselves involved in events in our community. Heritage Day, the Spring City Arts has a studio tour every year. This brings people to our community. And one thing I have found is that if I am doing something that's good for Spring City, it's generally good for me as a businessman too. And a lot of the stuff I do doesn't immediately bring back money, but over the long run brings people to town who eat at the cafe, who buy things at the gas station, come to my pottery shop, who go to the other businesses, and we all thrive and do better together. This is one of the open outdoor events we have. This is the artist studio tour, but it would look very much the same on Heritage Day when people come to see the old buildings. They just put the work out there, and people seem to really like that. They're drawn to it. They like the idea of Joe Potter, happy at his craft, happy with his bowl of granola and his, organic goat milk or whatever. They build these fantasies about you. They're really interesting. Personally, I think Pepsi and Donut is a great way to go. I put this slide in because when the 24th of July comes around, they have the Pioneer. I hire this wagon. It costs me money. The banner costs me money. And people in Spring City already know I'm there. It's my way of supporting the community event by putting a float in the parade that people like to see go by. And yeah, it builds goodwill, but quite honestly, probably less than 1% of my product is sold to people who live in Spring City. I'm drawing people off the Wasatch Front to come down to Spring City, which hopefully helps the other businesses out. Spring City Arts, an organization that Lee Benion on the foundation of, has become a very good thing in our community. We have this gallery on Main Street, which hardly pays for itself, but it's a banner, it's a billboard. It says there's art in Spring City. We're branding the name Spring City as an arts destination, trying to get people to come there. And again, this rising tide lifts all the ships, so to speak. Outdoor music events that are happening. There's soon going to be a weekly radio program along the lines of Mountain Stage or Prairie Home Companion. We'll be broadcasting from Spring City. It will be called Life Under the Horseshoe, featuring local and statewide and regional folk musicians and poets and that sort of thing. The cafe that's opened up. I put up a Facebook page for them and been blasting it with these little ads that I come up with. Because I just think it's so important when people come down to visit my pottery that I can send them over someplace good to have lunch instead of, well, there's probably one of those microwave sandwiches at the gas station, as opposed to being able to have, guess what, authentic German food that's really outrageous. And if you haven't been up there, by the way, just go down and check it out. There's nothing better than their bratwurst on a nice crusty bun. Got together a couple years ago with a bunch of other artists in town. We produced this brochure that's still on the table. Again, it's distributed statewide, and it's a way of cooperating. I would say cooperate with your competition. Find ways to help the people that you're selling alongside to all do better. Maybe this, again, breaks some of the rules here in the Temple of Commerce, but I just think that in a healthy economy, everybody does better. Healthy economic model. This is the other side of it, map how to get here, the events that are going on all over the valley, that sort of thing. This is a funny thing. This is, what is it? Utah Curiosities. Take a pot and leave $1 or $2. I haven't ever advertised the fact that I never lock my shop, and again, this probably breaks all the rules that you're running here, but I've just always kept it open. And it's a model I picked up from potters in the upper Midwest, where they have a shop, you walk into the shop, they're in the back working, or they're not even there that day, and there's a basket full of change, you put your money in, you take the change, you take the pottery out, and it's just an atmosphere of trust. And I started doing that because I was too cheap to hire someone to watch the shop for $10 an hour. I'm going to go broke. Come to find out, it drives word of mouth. People go home, and people really respond to this invitation to be honest. It's like, I can go to Spring City and be trusted. Where can you go and be trusted? Tell me, when I raise an hand. Where can you walk into a business and you're trusted to just do the right thing? No, when you walk into the library, you go through that screening. Make sure you're not stealing the books. Same thing at any department store. The overriding message is, we don't trust you, we want your money. The message here is, come on in, I trust you, your family. Yeah, and people ask me, do you ever get ripped off? And I said, I don't know, and I don't care. I sleep at night. And if getting ripped off to a certain percentage is part of the cost of doing business, oh well. Maybe someday they'll come back and pay me because they felt bad about it. But this little article in this book tells about that. And the point of this slide is simply that, again, I've been there for 35 years, and I don't know how many books there are out there that have a little page like this, guidebooks. Where to go in the West, where to go in Spring City, what to see on Highway 89. They always feature the Horseshoe Pottery, and quite often they feature a picture of the front of my pottery shop. And I did not start out to have the front of my shop become an icon for Spring City, but it has somewhat become that. Most articles about Spring City, and by the way, a lot of people write about the little town. Forbes Traveler called Spring City one of the 10 prettiest little towns in America. I don't know why that happened, because I can think of 100 prettier places, but they're not Spring City. And that's what I love about Spring City, so it is Spring City. But anyway, all these little books that have these pages about, go see this weird potter guy that has an attitude and philosophy and usually isn't there anyway. Mom stuff. Years ago, when we started doing lots of backpacking in rivers and of course working in clay, my hands just get destroyed. I would have cracks and bleeding on the back of my hands when I was in a really heavy work cycle. We started out using like bag balm or other butter or something like that, and Lee got to looking at it and said, I can do this. You want to talk about mom stuff at all?
So I just started playing around with recipes. It was before the internet. I had to actually check books out of the library on salad making. Talked to some older people and kind of came up with a formula that I liked, and I just made it for our family use. And that's all I ever intended to do. We didn't have a name for it. But our daughter Louisa, our oldest, was working a full season in the Grand Canyon one summer and putting it on her hands at night. And the other guy said, "What is that?" She said, "This is stuff my mom makes. You know how embarrassing it is when you have things that your mom does." And she basically said, "Well, can we try it?" So she passed the jar over, and they liked it. And every night they were putting it on their hands too. And if you work on the river, you get what they call perma cracks, your big cracks that don't heal. If you're doing construction, any guys work outside, you know what I mean. And by the end of the trip, most of their cracks had healed. That's why they were working on a trip. And usually those don't go away till winter. And they were just like, "We have to have more of your mom's stuff." So that's how it got a name. And so next she came home and had to bring up a few jars. I had to make up a few extra. And gradually, just word of mouth, people were pestering me to buy it. And I decided, I think I could make a little business out of this. And started selling, and for a long time, a number of years, it was just a couple hundred jars a year I'd make. And when I ran out, I ran out. But 3 or 4 years ago, I decided, I think, it was when I started seeing the internet possibilities, PayPal, that I could sell directly. I never wanted to get into wholesaling and making thousands and thousands of jars and selling them, no contact with people. I really enjoy the contact with my customers. That's important. And I realized, I think I can do that now with the way the internet market is. And so 3 or 4 years ago, I started making more volume and having more of a web presence. And it's worked pretty well. My goal with this business, I don't really have any employees. It's just me at this point. I suppose if I had kids that wanted to get involved and make it a bigger business, maybe, but I don't want the, I don't want to force anybody into it. But I don't want to have people that are beholden to me for a paycheck, and that sounds too stressful for me. So I want to keep it small enough that I can manage most of it myself, and I enjoy it, but big enough I could, quadruple, I figured, what I was doing, and maybe make enough for it to pay for our health insurance. That's my goal for the present right now. And when you're our age and self-employed, that's about $1,300 a month for health insurance. So that's what I'm hoping it'll do. It's made it a few months, and it's getting closer every month. But it's very satisfying, and that's what I think is important, or maybe a little different about Joe and me and what we do for a living, is that, the pottery, the guiding, the mom stuff, and the painting, all four of those things are things that we really love doing. They're not necessarily things we're going to get rich with, or at least not the way we approach it. What's really important to us is having time still for a lifestyle that we really enjoy. We love to play. We love to be outside. We love to have time with our kids and our animals. And we're not so interested in building an empire business-wise. It's what the tail is wagging the dog, if you've heard that metaphor. That's not appealing to us. And so that's kind of why we have our hands in 4 different things, because that takes the pressure off any one thing to make all the money we need to support ourselves. And we enjoy doing all of the 4 things we do, and we're out of time.
Quickly to wrap this up, I'll just throw this little story. Sometimes stuff just falls in your lap. I got a call, or actually an email on Friday from somebody I didn't know saying, can you be in your studio Monday and spend some time with this family filming their kids making pots? And I was like, right, I don't have time for this stuff. I went to the filmmaker's website, I looked at it, I thought, holy cow, it's really good. This is PBS quality. So I said, worst case, I have a little video short that I can put on the website. And so these people came, and we filmed their kids making pots, and playing around. And I spent quite a bit of time with them. Nice family. As they were leaving, they bought a pie dish and a jar of stuff. Big payback. The mother said, is your wife set up to sell her stuff on the internet? And I said, yeah. She said, well, I'm going to blog about it. I want to write a blog about it. I said, okay. And I had taken a bunch of pictures of their kids, and I said, I'll blog about you guys coming here too. And I went home and looked at her blog and went, holy crap. It's Design Mom. I don't know if any of you follow mommy blogs, but this is the one. This is the top deal. Newsweek called it the top website for 2010. That was it Time? Whatever, the one that's still in print. Anyway, and this is the blog that she posted, and Lee did get a bit of an avalanche coming at her. This is Lee's Mom Stuff page that I help her maintain. And these are some of the little ads I made for it. This one I'm most proud of. And that actually is the same kid in both pictures. It's my nephew. He's serving an LDS mission in East Texas now, which is a place where you really need mom's stuff. If any of you have ever been out walking in the humidity for long, it takes the place of talcum powder. I'll just put it that way. Anyway, meeting in public, I would say one of the most important things that we have done is to really pay attention to our people and to really love them and to service them and to make them feel included, which is what the newsletter does. Very quickly, this is my, questions I would ask if I wanted to be an entrepreneur. What do you really love or believe in? What do you want out of your vocation? Does your work feel like play? It certainly should. If it doesn't, what the heck are you doing? What is the net result of my work? What's the result of my work going to be on the 7th generation, I would ask? Looking down the road, is this sustainable? Are you very good at what you do? You need to be the best at what you do. Do you cooperate with your competition? Can you stay put? Can you stay in one place and not move around? At least for us, that's been important. Do you invest in your people? Do you spend time with your loved ones? What about the 7th generation? Is your happiness here and now? If you build it, will they come? Remember that little movie about the cornfield, Field of Dreams? That's what stuck with me out of that film, is if you build it, they will come. That's the slide talk. We're ready for Q&A. Yes.
What is the worst part of being an entrepreneur?
What is the worst part of being an entrepreneur? Selling. I love making pots. I love growing boats. Lee really enjoys making her salve and dealing with the people. Selling. It's work. That's where it starts to smell like work. Someone else back there? In the back, Amy.
Has the economic downturn affected you in all these past few years?
She wants to know if the economic downturn has affected us. I'm thinking about what happened in 07, 08. I actually found that compared to the other potters I knew, we sailed through relatively unscathed because of the relationships we had built with our people. Potters who were dependent on craft fairs, on shops and galleries to sell their work didn't do so well. The reason being, they were dependent on someone else to sell their work. I think our people, with the salve, even with the river trips we produce, and certainly with the pottery and these paintings, feel a certain loyalty and investment in us. It's like, well, Joe Bennion, he's our potter. You know? Rather than, oh, I bought this mug down at Moab. I don't know who made it, but it's kind of cool. There's this connection. There's this interlocking of our lives. It's a personal connection. And therefore, I think we did a little better through the downturn just because our people are a little more loyal to us and feel a connection and want to see us stick around maybe. I don't know. More questions? Yes, sir.
What role does innovation play in your business?
What role does innovation play? I think that there's a danger with art to pump your own stomach, especially, let's say, in music. You come out with a hit album, and what are you going to do next? Or you come out with a best-selling novel, what are you going to do next? And I think the thing that you do next is you be honest and you say the truth, and if that's not good enough, oh well. And by say the truth, I mean you make the art that you feel. And you just continue to make the art that you feel, and you expect that whatever inspiration came to you for that last really cool one will come around again.
I think that innovation, the spark for that comes from having an interesting and full life. And if your life is unhappy and if your work comes from your life, then it's not going to work. But I think part of what's worked for us is the time to play, the things we do outside of our studios are cause for innovation. We're not continually developing what you would say new product and adding to the line. We're not that kind of a business. But the life we lead feeds our work. And so it's constantly changing. It's more subtle than a big business model.
Are your children going to continue your business when you guys retire?
He wants to know if our children will continue our business when we retire. Probably not. But they will continue to do what we do, I think.
In their own way.
As I look at where my kids are in their lives, I don't feel any disappointment, discouragement, or gee, why haven't they got it figured out yet? They're doing, what they need to be doing right now, which is finding joy, having happiness now, and building for the future, but living squarely in the present. Who said that?
Where did you buy your wood kiln at?
Where did I buy my wood kiln at? I didn't buy it. I have a friend in Virginia who is a kiln builder, and I had read Samuel Clemens, who wrote a great novel called Tom Sawyer, in which this boy is given a fence to paint. And what does he do? He sells tickets. He sells, if you'll give me this or this or this, I'll let you paint. Painting is cool. So I advertised in the National Journal that we were having a kiln building class, kiln building workshop. And I hired Kevin. I got enough money from the 8 students who signed up, enough tuition to fly him out and pay him his fee. And we spent 2 weeks having a blast making this kiln together. And everybody went home feeling great, and I had my kiln built. I got Kevin paid for it. So that's where I bought it. We have just a couple more minutes. Yes, sir.
So the one business that you have right now, the just hinged on your personal talent alone, sort of, seems to be the mom stuff. So, I mean, but that's talent, it's an art, you make that by hand, right?
It's handcrafted.
No, and you can't find anything quite like it anywhere else. It's very unique, so.
So could that grow beyond when you stop making it, could it continue to be done?
It could be. That would probably be the one thing we could pass on to our kids if any of them were interested, because I could teach them how to do that. Making the pots the way Joe does, doing my paintings, yeah, that's not going to happen.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you get the ingredients and just like a 30-second version of the process for making monsters?
Of the ingredients, I grow some of them, the comfrey, the beeswax is from a local beekeeper. That's a big component in it. Bennion pine pitch is another large ingredient. I picked that. You can't even buy it. I pick it around here from the Bennion pine trees. Then there's extra virgin olive oil. That I buy. That comes from Spain.
Used to come from Costco.
But, anyway, the other ingredients I get from a oil wholesaler called Liberty Naturals, and I order those ingredients, essential oils and things that I use. Lanolin I buy, but it has to be heated up. It's kind of like cooking in a laboratory.
She almost burned the house once.
Yeah, I almost burned the house down. That was back when I was still just making it for
I
our
will just say
family.
this, that we could sell that business today, but it would not be the same thing, because I think Lee puts a certain part of her essence into it. Now, of course, that product is developed. Innovation, that's when you come up with a lip balm and all the other products, which we probably won't ever do.
Unless, like I say, I had family that wanted to expand that business, and I had people say, why don't you have oversized jars? Why don't you have this kind of product? Really, I feel like this is the one product the family needs. I use it on my lips, my face, my hands, my feet, everywhere. It knocks out fungal infections, it treats eczema, it's good on babies' bums, it's good on your face. I don't need to have all those other products. You know, when you go to another website that sells health and beauty, they have like 15 products, and you feel like, oh, I gotta have each one of them. This is the one thing you need. You can use it everywhere. So I like to keep things simple. And it's effective everywhere.
You can go for the sun up, Sean. Now, we're out of time. You guys are lovely.
There's a jar right up here. You're welcome to come stick your finger in and dig out a little bit and try it. And we have newsletters, and they brought a painting.
Lots of show and tell.